Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber to better understand their audience and turn them into loyal customers. Every week, Danny Wolf has brutally honest conversations with busy tech buyers about what really motivates them, the things they hate that vendors do, and what you can do about it. Get access to practical information on how to build authentic relationships with your audience. Listen to and talk with your buyers, and apply real customer insights to your strategies and tactics. You owe it to the world to unmute your mic. Are you ready?
All right, welcome to another episode of Audience First. As always, I have a very special guest with us today. I have the one and only Charles Payne on the show today. Charles, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Danny. Really appreciate it.
For sure. And again, thank you for such patience. For those of you who don't know, Charles and I have been talking for a while, and I had to reschedule our podcast episode like 4 times over last minute. So Charles, apologies for that, and thanks for the flexibility. I'm really happy you joined us today. So let's get straight into it. Charles, I want to know, who are you, what do you do, and why the hell do you do it?
Yeah, great question. I figured you'd ask it just like you wrote it. I'm a CISO for Neptune Media, and we're a venture capital company. But we also host cybersecurity events and summits just to try to give back to the community and try to do something a little bit differently than everybody else.
Right. Why do you do it, though? Let's dig into that a little bit more.
Funny story. I was complaining to our board about how much some of the other cybersecurity events I've been to are lackluster, if you will. And they told me, if you don't like it, you should go change it. And then here we are.
So they gave you that flexibility to just go take the reins and do something a little bit different.
Yes, they did. Yep.
What, in your opinion, do you think needs changing?
That's a great question. So for me, my value and my ROI from a CISO's perspective is the ability to build relationships with vendors, build that partnership. That's what I really look forward to, is having a partnership with a vendor that I can call at, I don't want to say all hours of the night, but I want to be able to rely on if there's a problem.
Right.
And that's something that lacks predominantly in the industry. We have a lot of people trying to sell stuff. We have a lot of people trying to buy some stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't really have anybody trying to create those relationships.
Right.
And that's where things should change and things need to be better.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine that's one of the things you dislike about this industry, but let's dig in a little bit more and double click into what you hate most about this industry.
Yeah, so I normally focus on what I love most first, but yes, what I dislike most about the industry is that there are many things that aren't very personal.
Okay.
There's a lot of things on a high level that are just trying to like get you to buy something. You know what David and Alan Alfred and some of the other guys will call FUD. The whole fear and certainty and doubt thing. They're just trying to give you that shock and awe, scare you, just to try to make you buy something. And that's, we've seen that so many times. It's kind of like, I really don't like when someone tries to pitch me based on like, oh, you know this or you know that. And like, yes, I already know that. That's my job. Thanks for trying to point that out to me. I don't need you to send me an email saying, well, do you know if you're secure or not? Well, of course I know where I am and where I'm not. I mean, that's ideally my job. However, I don't need you to try to scare me or try to force me into making a panic decision and try to get me to purchase something. Just try to talk to me like a person.
Right.
Person-to-person sales are much more efficient than you trying to use FUD or something else or some other acronym to try to get me to purchase or stimulate me to do something. Because it will stimulate me to do something. I promise you that. But it's usually, like Chris and everybody else, it's just the delete key or something else. It's nothing positive for the vendors aspect.
So let's flip it on its head, because you like talking about what you love about the industry. What is it that you love about the industry? And then I will follow up with that shortly after with what stimulates you to make a decision to do something from a positive perspective.
Perfect. So what I love about the industry is that when there's a problem, we'll all rally together.
Yeah.
We have the ability to unite under for a single cause. And I think that's where our industry is great, is it has the ability to help the community and to rally around a cause. I say a single cause because we don't normally rally around everything holistically. It's usually like an incident or a situation that will all come together, but seldomly do we come together all the time, which is kind of where, again, the industry is a little bit broken. But in short-sighted, talking about the benefits of the industry, when there is a situation or there's something that's happening that's critical, you tend to find the industry pulled together pretty well.
Right.
to work out a solution.
So you mentioned that you're working on events now from the CISO perspective. What is valuable to you? And I've been to just recently a few large public security events and noticed that a lot of folks lobby con. A lot of folks hang out in the lobbies, at the bars. They run ancillary events. They run offsite events apart from expoing on the trade show floor, right? So in your opinion as a CISO, when you attend smaller events or lobby cons of these larger public security events, what specific aspects of those small events attract you as a professional?
I look at what I'm going to gain. Again, I judge my ROI based on the relationships I'm going to build and the
Right,
partnerships I'm going to forge.
right.
So I look at the other executives that are attending, and I look at the vendors. I'm
Mhm,
probably I can't be I'm not I can't be the only person that's looking at the vendors. I need partnerships. I'm in a regulated industry. We have to have those type of relationships. We have to have partnerships with vendors. So I know I'm not the only one by far, but I I do know that when I am judging the smaller events, I want to make sure that the vendors that are going to be there are relevant to what I'm doing, are relevant to my industry, and are
mhm.
also I'm able to connect with peers. But a few side notes to that, and we'll discuss on your follow up questions. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's generally what I look for.
Well, are there certain types of technologies that you look out for, or solutions or services, that you're more likely to explore at smaller, like, ancillary events or offsite, activities compared to the larger expo kinda things?
Yes, yeah. So I'll actually explore a lot because it's about time, right? So at a smaller event, I've got more niche time. I've got more time to spend one on one with the vendors. I've got more time to network with my peers. So I have a lot more of an opportunity to explore for something new than I wouldn't have at a normal Black Hat or RSA, for example. RSA, Black Hat, there's thousands of people, thousands of vendors. I don't have time. And on top of that, at a
Right.
larger event, I'm competing to talk to the CTO, the CISO from the vendor. So at that point in time, I'm competing against everybody else trying to get their time, and it usually never benefits me to the point of where, okay, I got 5 questions in, or maybe I got one question, or maybe I saw them FaceTime for 5 minutes. It's just not worth my time.
I wanna unwrap your journey or your experience where a smaller event or ancillary activity at a large public security event has significantly influenced your purchasing decision. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's actually a pretty good one that comes to mind, and the guy's name was Jacob. I think he works for Thales at this point, but
Mhm.
it was one of those things where he was the one of the VPs of the sales for the vendor that we were using or going to potentially use. And it was something where we just finished the conference. We were just sitting at the bar. He
Yeah.
came over and says, "Hey, can I buy a drink?" I'm like, "No, I'm good. I got an open tab. Do you want a drink?" And then we were sitting there bickering back and forth of who was going to buy the drink. I thought that was kind of funny because it's like there's not too many people that have that type of personality, but more so, and it wasn't so much that did it. It was the fact that he didn't come down. He didn't say who he was. He didn't really talk about anything other than, "Hey, hey." He's like, "Hey, bro, how you doing? How'd you think of the conference?" It wasn't a sales pitch. It was just it was like a friend to a friend type of thing. It was a person to a person conversation. It was a very informal, "Hey, how you doing?" But then as the conversation progressed, it was like, "Well, this is what I do. Yeah, I'm a CISO, blah blah blah." He's like, "Oh, I do VP of sales, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. What do you guys do?" He's like, "Oh, we do certificate access management." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, Google's messing up some stuff. They're trying to push certificates out every 90 days. That's gonna be hell trying to make sure we maintain compliance with that. He's
Right.
like, yeah, we have solutions that automate all that stuff. I'm like, oh really? That's kind of interesting. And that's kind of what kicked that off. It was just someone sitting down saying, hey, can I buy you a drink? I'm like, hey, I got open time. You want a drink? And then just being a friend, just hanging out. I mean, it's as simple as something can be. It wasn't a sales call. It wasn't like a, hey, you should buy my stuff. This is what I do. It was more like, hey, you want a drink?
And what happened after that? So you finished that, you finished the drink, you finished the event, you went home.
Yeah. Then the follow up started. In fact, I actually started following up with him
Okay.
because what happens is, again, my normal personality, build relationships, partnerships, etc. So we connected on LinkedIn. I pulled out my phone, pulled out my barcode, and showed him my phone. We scanned each other, and then I messaged him a couple days or a week or so after I came back home. I
And that
can't remember the exact time period, but yeah.
yeah. That barcode, was it LinkedIn or what was it, your, like, digital business card? What was it?
Oh, it was LinkedIn. Yeah,
LinkedIn?
yeah.
I found out about that barcode, by the way, at RSA when I started seeing people bring that up. Like, I didn't know there was a barcode for LinkedIn, to be honest. We talked about some mistakes that are being made or some issues that you think are problematic in the industry with regards to smaller events. Chris Roberts and I, other folks in the industry, talk about the issues at big public security events and expos. Let's divulge some of the common mistakes that vendors make at these offsite events or at lobby cons or, the round tables, what's above, below, in between events.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I speak from the standpoint of the
Mhm,
Horizon, cybersecurity summits, but the we built our summits to be very social.
mhm,
So there's not like a whole sales type of thing. We're doing soft selling and
mhm.
soft relationships and introductions that way. And I've been to many B-sides conferences and some other smaller ones, and I'm not talking about B-sides Vegas. I'm talking about some of the other smaller cities and locations. And you'll see the vendors like sitting behind the table, and like you are never gonna interact with anybody at B-sides just sitting by the table by yourself. I'm like that's never gonna work.
Mhm.
It's like you have to get up and you have to interact.
Mm.
Same thing with our summits. You have to interact. If you sit there and you expect people to come to you, it's like we're not bees and honey. It's you've got to get up and participate type of scenario.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things. And another thing that I've seen is when I'm walking by a booth or I'm walking by a table, sometimes if it's a smaller show, they might be slower, and then maybe they're having a employee to employee conversation, a vendor to vendor conversation, and I'll stand there for maybe a minute or so, 30 seconds, and if they don't acknowledge me, I'll tend to just walk on. I'm like, my time's precious too, and I just keep going. So those are the two biggest things or my two biggest criticisms
Yeah.
for that.
Why is it necessary, though, to focus on the soft skills? Because we went through the agenda that's going to be kicking off in Hawaii. We'll get into a little bit of what you're doing in Hawaii, but why soft skills over or soft topics over some of the more technical issues that are being addressed, at Black Hat, RSA in general, which is so powerful and popular for vendors these days.
Absolutely. So great question. So most of what we need are some of the other basic GRC stuff. We need like the governance, risk, and compliance. We need the legal tech
Right.
context. So I mean, I don't want to misspeak here. We actually do have Jeff Sims, who works for Highest, that actually does a lot of the AI and some of the other pen testing stuff. Actually wrote some of the polymorphic stuff with Black Mamba for with
Mhm.
ChatGPT. So we definitely do have a technical track, and I don't want to detract from that. But what I do want to highlight is we do have a lot of soft skills about where people talk about how expensive it is to hire and how difficult it is to hire. So
Mhm.
I thought it'd also be important to, instead of trying to have such a churn in the cybersecurity industry, why don't we focus on keeping the talent that we have? Why don't we try to focus on retaining the good talent that we have and work with them to work with us and make our businesses grow?
Yeah.
It seems like we've got this mentality of like just burn, 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 and then
Mm.
when they burn out, throw them away, get a new one, we'll hire a new one and keep going. And it's like no, 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 we got to change this mentality.
Yeah. Why do you think that there's kind of this barrier to changing this mentality with regards to soft topics and soft skills in the industry among practitioners and executives, C-level executives as well?
I'll admit I'm probably one of the people who see value, and it's kind of complicated, but I'm probably one of the few people who didn't see value in some of the soft topics initially until I started experiencing what they really meant
Okay.
intrinsically. And I looked at it like, okay, because my background, I'm a technical and business oriented CISO. So
Yeah.
basically, I have the financial acumen and I also have all of the technical skills. So for me, I look at it like, okay, I know this. Let me move on to something else.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave me a different perspective. I'm like, I already heard the technical stuff. The technical stuff I know. The business aspect I know. But I'm looking for something that's different because what we have right now in the industry doesn't work. If it worked, we wouldn't have such high turnovers. We wouldn't be doing all these massive layoffs, even though cybersecurity is one of the most pinnacle parts of a corporation. You wouldn't see people laying off that many thousands of people in their cybersecurity departments.
Mhm.
I attribute that to either their management's inability to communicate, or there's another differentiation in there where it doesn't seem like they're having that proper communication. And maybe it's the engineers that are having the issue, or maybe it's the cybersecurity folks, or maybe it's management, or maybe it's a mixture of the both. But if
Hmm.
we don't start to make some changes somewhere, then we'll never see any change or any adjustments.
In your opinion, or in your experience, as you sit in your seat right now, and you have several relationships with CISOs in the industry and other practitioners as well, in different varying roles, how is their perception these days with regards to the topics we're addressing right now? What do you see are some of the things that make them tick? Because you do have the Horizon Summit coming up, and my assumption is you're talking to these folks, and what's the perception there?
Yeah, I think the executives, as well as most of the vendors, are loving the idea because I mean, even like this, the standard vendor package gives you like 19 hours worth of one-on-one time, and I'm not saying that just to create a stat. I mean that is what it is. It's 19 plus hours of one-on-one time. What's that really mean? That's per employee that comes. So
Right.
when you break it down, it's like I'm not trying to sell you 10 or 15 minutes of an executive's time. I'm trying to get you to go have lunch or dinner with the executive and just go be a person, go have that human interaction, build the relationship.
Yeah.
And I focus on the aspect, and this is where a lot of the other executives pretty much agree with what I'm saying. And then the vendors do too, because once I explain it to the vendors, they seem to understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
But it takes me to I usually have to speak to the CEO or the CFO before it actually clicks.
Yeah.
I have trouble speaking to marketing. It's the CMO. For whatever reason, we don't click. But
Interesting.
I understand the business acumen of it. So I can talk to the CEO and the CFO no problem all day. And they're like, look, here's the thing. From a vendor's perspective, let me address the executive's perspective first. The executive's perspective, I measure my ROI based on the relationships and the partnerships that I can build. And that's how I look at if this trade show was successful or not. What's my return on? And I say investment, but I really mean my time. What's the return on my time, or what's the return on my investment?
Right.
From a vendor's perspective, they actually measure their return on investment in dollars and cents.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not saying that that's a bad measurement, but I had another executive reach out to me, a vendor, and they're like, by the time we calculate all of this lead gen, we go through all of these things just to finally get the meeting with that person, and then you add all that up across all the people that we're going to meet at one of our events. It's kind of like it would have been cheaper just to come to the event to begin with and see everybody face to face as it was to go through that trial and tribulation of just trying to get a virtual appointment with them.
Yeah.
So going back to reiterate, a vendor's ROI and their metric is realized by creating the relationship with the executive, just like the executive wants to create the relationship with the vendor. But the flip side is it works both ways. So when I leave Neptune Media and I transition to my next project in 2 years, 3 years, whatever the case may be, or 6 or 12 months, who knows, whatever the case may be, probably 3+ years though. But the point being is whatever technology stack I have here, I'll take with me to the next place I go, and vice versa.
Right.
So here's what also happens. Now the vendors also got repeat business because whoever I do business with today, I'll do business with tomorrow in the future because I've got that relationship already established. I don't
Right.
want to rebuild the wheel. I have no problem forging the wheel the first time. Great. But I don't want to continuously rebuild it. I don't want to continuously repair it. It's buy it once and use it many times is kind of the process. And the same thing applies to the vendor. So the thing is when I make a relationship with the vendor or that person at that vendor, when that person changes companies and they go from, company A to company B, it's very possible I might switch my business to company B. Or I
Right.
might now start doing business with company B if they're not in competition with company A.
Hmm.
And there's plenty of people I've done additional business with based on the relationships that I had with that vendor or that person that was at that vendor
Hmm.
for that very reason, because it's a relationship. The
Yes.
relationships are what I value. It's
Right.
kind of like when people buy in and sponsor the Horizon Cybersecurity Summit, they're not buying into the summit. They're buying into me. They're buying into the other people. They're buying into basically what they see and what they perceive as the face of the company, which at the moment is me.
Right.
So,
I do. You mentioned something super intriguing to me. You mentioned, okay, you have no problem getting, into the CFO and, getting into the CEO. They understand the value there. What is it about the conversations that you're having with the marketers that prove to be difficult? Like, what are the barriers you're getting or objections you're getting from the marketers when you talk about the ROI of events like Horizon or similar?
I'll have a vendor tell me that it's too expensive. And I'm like, I'm not saying that our summits are cheap. They're not, but they're not they're not really that expensive. If you compare it, going back to what another CEO was saying, another vendor that actually a sponsor, they're like, if you compared how much it actually cost us, because the CEO is seeing the cost of how much it costs for the marketing, the cost for the sales, the cost to develop this pipeline, because they're seeing the top level, they're seeing the top level down. So they're seeing everything. They see the
Right.
complete picture. And they're able to say, you know, by the time I wasted all this time, effort, and money, I could have just done this and been there already. I didn't have to
Right.
go through all these trials and tribulations. So the problem I have explaining sometimes to the CMO is they see a very tight knit KPI, and that's kind of where the problem is. You know, going back to one of your other questions, like what could, you know, the marketing and the sales professionals do better? It's like, I'm not saying KPIs and metrics are bad, but sometimes they focus and they chase on the wrong KPIs and metrics. It's like, it used to be like badge scans. You know, go back 2 years ago, it used to be badge scans. Scan 1 million badges. That's the best way to do it. I'm like, who's going to follow up with all those people that we scanned? Now you're going to have a conversation. And that was another point that I had. Another question that you had is, it's like, I hate when, you know, if I'm having a conversation with the CEO, CTO, or CMO, or whatnot, that I've got a BDR that calls me. And again, no disrespect to the business development representative, but it's like, they might not have all the notes, or maybe they didn't read the notes, or maybe they don't have access to the notes. And it just becomes frustrating on my aspect for
Right.
me. So going back to why I have trouble communicating with the CMOs, it's because I'm trying to explain to them, like, look, if you take the cost of how much our summit is, and then you spread it across that, even if you get the cheapest option, you still get 3 dinners with an executive. How much would 3 dinners cost you? I can
Don't
tell you,
even get me started.
it's 50 grand. It's 50 grand each.
Yeah.
On a normal conference. You're talking about 150 grand.
Yeah.
You know, our normal packages aren't even are crazy. They're so much less than that. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
You can get started for a tenth of that. It's dumbfounding. It's like when they measured their KPIs, it's like they have great goals and great intentions, but their metrics are just outdated. They just need to be updated.
It's I kind of compare it to like just shooting in a barrel at that point. Like if you're going to an event like that, you're surrounded for 6 days with Fortune 500 CISOs who are on an island, and you yourself are there with an opportunity to engage and build relationships with. Again, that's like shooting in the barrel. Come prepared, understand where folks are at any given moment, prep yourselves before the event. You know, come ready with your value proposition if you're going to expo. Come ready with the technical chops. I mean, that to me, that's like a no-brainer. I don't know. If I were in someone's shoes, and I looked at the cost of Horizon, so I was like, if I were in someone's shoes off on working for a vendor, really, it's a no-brainer. And Oahu, I mean, come on.
Absolutely. I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, on top of that, it's about building relationships. It's like, you know, we have a saying, you know, relationships equal ROI.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get any more basic than that.
But how do you scale that? Because everybody talks about, okay, I got to scale the business. I got to scale. It's not scalable, blah, 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 blah. How do you scale that? Like, yes, it's quality. How do you make it more systematic and scalable?
You mean, how did you scale Horizons?
No. In general, like, you know, we talk about relationships. How do you scale relationship capital?
You don't need to scale a single relationship, but you need to build multiple relationships. And
Right.
then that's kind of where the person that you send and the person that attends the summit is critical. You don't want to send the person that's very introverted, that's going to sit in the corner and sit at the booth the whole time. It's not going to be profitable for you. It won't be very good.
Right.
And it probably won't be very good for them either, especially in a social setting. But if you send someone who's like a social butterfly, or someone who's more outgoing and advantageous, or just likes to have a conversation, they will be successful. It's a networking event, essentially.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier a keyword that I really liked, follow-up. Okay. In your opinion, what is the key to strong follow-up post-event, whether large or small, in the security industry?
Right. So my take on that is, if I had a conversation with, you know, Bob the SE, then I would like Bob the SE to call me. I don't want somebody else other than the person I was having a conversation with to call me, because then I've got to repeat and reiterate everything I've already explained the first time. Because notes are only so good. They're only usually touch points. They're never fully accurate or complete.
Right.
So at least if Bob, and I'm making up a name, Bob, but, you know, if Bob wrote the notes, he'd be like, oh, okay, these are the touch points I was talking about. Oh, yeah, that's the conversation I was having with that guy. So it gives them the ability to recall the conversation. I don't have to repeat everything again.
Right.
It's not like I'm starting a brand new conversation from scratch. And that's where it's like I get frustrated sometimes where, you just get those random emails like, "Hey, you were at this conference last week," and I'm like, maybe I wasn't. I registered for it. Yeah, I didn't make it, but and you get those random emails, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, this is going in the trash.
Yeah.
Because again, it's one of those things. It's like there's no value of my time. They're just trying to spray and pray type of scenario.
Right, right, right. And even if you tell them, "Hey, like, I'm not opted in, like, I don't wanna be opted in, don't you scan my badge, don't send me an email," they do it anyway. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I actually don't. I change my email usually halfway through the show, so that doesn't happen. And
How
if
many
it,
email domains do you actually own, right? How many domains or email addresses do you own?
I
Probably
will I will
countless.
I will I will joke. I will kid you not, way more than 1,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it
Dang.
gets to the point where it's just obscene. It goes by numbers. Zero
Yeah.
zero 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 one 00002. Yeah, kid you not. True story.
Can you provide, any tips for security professionals who are coming to these large security events and also some of the smaller offsite events? What are some, pieces of advice that you can provide security practitioners to really gain the most value of the ancillary events and lobby cons and roundtables, dinners, parties, etcetera?
You know, again, that would be just bring your phone out and connect with people on LinkedIn and be social.
Right.
It's all about building a community and building that relationship. When I'm teaching college, so there's two things I tell the students. It's like there's two things that you have to do in cybersecurity. One, build relationships. Two, support the community. If you
Mhm,
do those two things, you'll be successful.
mhm.
I mean,
What
assuming
are
you,
some ways that folks can support the community?
you know, I'm not saying that everybody has to do it. I'm actually volunteering at B-Sides this year.
Mhm,
I'll be there. So again, I'm just trying to help any way I can to support the community holistically speaking. There are people, some other people are volunteering their time to speak and talk about some of the other security incidents that are going on in the community. So it's just a matter of doing your part. Not everybody's super technical, not everybody's as able as everybody else, some different skill sets, but there's
right.
always there's always something that can be done. There's always something that you can do. I mean, B-Sides I think still needs people to help assemble and disassemble some of the booths that are there.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there are a wide range of skills and things that can be done to help support. And by support, I don't mean necessarily financial. I mean maybe volunteering time.
Yeah.
Maybe helping prepare some meals if you're talking about a shelter or something. So there's a lot of things that can be done. It's just a lot of people don't always do that. And I learned one thing when I was at KPMG and Deloitte. We always focused heavily on community service
Mhm.
and trying to help the local communities. And that's one thing that's really resonated with me and that stuck with me all this time.
That's great. What are some other smaller events or organizations, communities that we can learn of today? So there's B-sides, there are smaller conferences as well, but, let's kinda list them out, ones that really stand out to you.
I typically try to find like ISSA or ISACA or the IC squared. Um, I participate with Fair Institute, so that's always a good one. And
Mhm.
again, some of their classes are expensive, so I try to go to the free stuff or look at the free stuff online when it comes to that because some of the stuff just gets really expensive. And then there's
Right,
Sands and some of the other bigger ones that do that, and those are definitely a lot more expensive.
right.
However, if you volunteer there, you usually get 50 to 75% off, so it becomes not that expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well, I mean, do you have any questions for me?
So I was reading your profile, and your profile was actually pretty intriguing. I actually read one of your last LinkedIn posts about how you were talking about how you did the unthinkable, where you actually went around your CMO. I thought that was kind of an interesting story about how you actually illustrated not so much of like the negative aspect of it or the purposes or the intentions of trying to be malice, but just trying to show like, hey, look, you guys are doing something that's antiquated, and since you guys aren't going to get there by yourself and update and use new metrics and actually learn some of the newer technologies, let me help you show you how to do it by doing it first. And actually, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was a frustration of mine in that, I had all this great data in Salesforce that really didn't say much, to be honest. Like, it was maybe an interesting story, but not the actual, insights that I needed to be successful as a demand gen marketer. And I didn't have any budget for customer research. I was never invited to analyst calls. Sales have their own questions that they need to ask. Customer success have their own questions that they need to ask. But it didn't give me the complete story. And so I was like, okay, well, if I don't have the resources and I don't have the buy-in right now, well, just go learn to do it yourself. Instead of just waiting around, twiddling thumbs, making assumptions. And so yeah, I kinda went around and did it on my own, and it was really a blessing, and I learned a lot in a very short amount of time. Um, I mean, it took me to places that I really didn't think it would take me. I kind of found my groove, so that was really exciting and refreshing because it's challenging. It's challenging as a marketer in this industry. You talk to CMOs, and they're in a rough spot. They're in a rough spot right now. It's not easy. I mean, I'm 5 years in this industry, in the security industry, and it's the hardest period of time, I think, for startups right now.
I think that that story really resonated with me. It looks like I don't want to say that you're trying to be like a badass and just try to like take the bull by the horns type of scenario. Like you're going to do it yourself and go rogue. It was more along the lines of like, hey, we've got a problem. It's not getting addressed. If I'm going to be successful in what I'm doing, you actually took the initiative to actually get the job done, and that's something that I would also recommend to other security practitioners. Idealistically, was if you see a problem, don't complain about the solution. We have a lot. I go to a lot of other conferences, and a lot of the CISOs complain about the problems, but nobody wants to talk about the solutions. I'm like, this is a waste of time.
Yeah,
It's like if we're not going to talk about solutions, I can sit there and bitch and complain all I want to other people. I'm like, this. I could have stayed at home for this.
right.
I didn't have. I didn't have to. I didn't have to come here. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we talk about problems, especially at the Horizon Summit. We talk about problems, but we also provide solutions. We talk about solutions and ways to cope, ways to deal, and ways to address certain situations.
Right.
And that's where another thing that I found was broken was like everybody complains about problems. I'm like, yeah, I know stuff's broken, but tell me over and over again it's broken. It's not helpful.
Right.
Unless you're going to follow it up with like, and the solution is, it's kind of a counterproductive type of scenario.
I also found that in my journey, like a lot of the folks that my colleagues, other marketers, sales folks, subscribe to those problems, meaning they don't know that they're actually problems. And so they continue down the path of status quo. And I address this frequently. And so when I started learning all these great things from buyers and just learned, in my journey of pursuing customer research, I was like, okay, hold on. I'm in these forums, I'm talking to colleagues, and I'm realizing that they're double downing on things that are not going to resonate. On the contrary, like they're going to negatively impact their brand from a personal perspective, from an organizational perspective, just make buyers disgruntled. Let's help them out and actually like give them the insight. I don't need to keep it only to myself. This is kind of like, I'm getting high level enough insight that I could share it with my community. And I just wanted to serve that to the community because I didn't want the whole experience of the customers in the industry and the whole experience of marketers who are trying to level up be impacted by subscribing to the status quo that they don't think is the status quo. They don't know it's the status quo. So that was one element that I really wanted to address is, let's serve this industry. And I think one thing that really resonated with me is that a lot of the practitioners I talk to have this servant mindset, right? They want to help people. They're here to protect people. They're here to help folks out. And so I really kind of like that really hit home to me, that really resonated with me. And I really wanted to help the community. There's no kind of like hidden agenda here. For me, it's just helping everybody. And if they want to work with me, that's just the cherry on top. Um, and I've been fortunate enough to work with practitioners and folks and collaborate with CISOs who want to provide the alternative. And that's the key here. You talked about problems and we need solutions. We're trying to find solutions to problems. And if they work, great. If not, we'll look under another rock, right? So it's about continuous building, continuous experimentation, continuous conversation from both sides. To me, that's what's going to make this industry a little bit better. I really believe in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole CI/CD pipeline type of thing. It's like, yeah, you're continuously improving.
Yeah.
So we always should continuously improve as a community. If you look back at what the red team, or you might say white hat, black hat, do differently. Like the black hats, that I don't want to say peer groups or hackers, but basically, if you look at like the adversarial type of connection, they'll talk amongst themselves in the forums like, hey, look, I got into the firewall this way. If you do this, that'll at least get you to stage 1. I don't know about stage 2, but they'll communicate. So what I'm trying to say is, in their adversarial groups, they'll actually communicate, and they'll have their little chats. What we will not do on the white team or the white side of cybersecurity is communicate. We have InfoGuard and FSISec and all this other stuff, but maybe I delayed my TTPs and my IOCs to the boards just because I had to sterilize it and make sure it didn't conflict. And by the time I got it to the board and they replicated it back out to another financial institution, they already got hit.
Yeah.
So it's that delay, that latency that causes the problem. It's like we don't openly talk about stuff, and if we do actually disclose stuff, it's like how much of that stuff that happened was really disclosed, and the answer is probably not 100%. I mean, generally speaking. So it's like we've got that problem. We've got that ability to share data and that communication problem in the industry. The hackers are talking amongst themselves. They're talking about what's working and how things get done. And on the other side, they don't talk about anything. Everything's like sealed lips, never happened, closed doors. And it's like, yep, if we keep this mentality, we're never going to win. We can't win.
Right.
It's kind of like you were speeding down the highway, and then you see the police officer coming behind you. It's like, yeah, you might have a super fast car and you might be able to outrace them, but they got something you don't have. It's called a radio. They can call ahead to the people down the street, and you can't run the radio. And that's kind of where the bad guys kind of use the same thing. They phone home, or they phone each other and tell each other what they're doing and how it works. And we pretend like we don't have phones, we don't have radios. Like we just keep everything in isolation. I'm like, this is never going to work.
Right.
But
I love that analogy. I couldn't agree more. We are headed towards the end of the session. We could talk about this for hours, but I do want to know, is there one thing you want to impart on the audience today before we sign off?
Absolutely, yes. If they haven't registered already for the in-person aspect of it, or if it was full, I can't tell, they should definitely register for the virtual aspect of the summit.
Tell me a little bit quickly where they can find information about the summit, Horizon Cybersecurity Summit, when it is, where it is, and just kind of a quick overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So the website is horizonsummit.org, and it is October 1st through October 6th at Turtle Bay Resort in Hawaii.
Amazing. I am looking forward to being there. Hopefully I'll be able to provide some valuable information to a group of CISOs, make some connections, hang out, have a good time, learn a lot of new things, and gather some insights there. We'll drop links to the summit registration form below in this episode. And where can folks find you, Charles?
I would say the place that I'm most active is probably LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, they can look for NYL. So also stood for New York Life, and then Charles Payne. So NYL Charles Payne.
Nice. Yeah.
Well,
Charles, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us today on the show. You're always welcome back.
I agree. I really appreciate your time today, Danny. Thank you.
My pleasure. This has been another episode of Audience First. We are out.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.